Hello and welcome back to another tutorial. So in this tutorial, you're going to be learning how you can vault over walls with different sizes. Like this. We have small to the biggest size, which is this one right here. You can even vault that. If you have the right animation for vaulting this wall right here, you can just replace the animation. For the next tutorial, you're going to be learning how you can, how you're going to be able to climb over these big rocks right here. You're going to even be able to mantle over these little blocks right here. That's going to be it for the tutorial, and let's go for it. So we're gonna do this by steps. I have a lot of comments that I let in here so that we can do it by parts, okay? So I'm just basically going to choose a key for us to start vaulting. We're going to be placing a line trace that is going to be forward. It's gonna get the character forward location, forward vector. It's going to be pointing at this wall right here. And if this line trace detects that there is this little wall in front of us, then we're going to call another line trace for it to check the height and blah blah blah. So for now we need the line trace forward. The first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna get a branch. So hold B and left click. Let's drag and drop the character movement component here. And from here we're going to type is moving on ground, so that way we can prevent any issues, any glitches that can happen when you're trying to climb something. If the character is moving on ground, then we can execute the line trace. So from here, from true, we're going to type line trace for objects, the set of variables that we need to set in here. For example, object types, we're going to promote this to a variable so that we can have the variable right here. Let's just compile. The same variable we're going to use for the other line trace channels, line trace for objects. So it's good to have that. And also the draw debug type. Let's first choose for duration. So now we can promote it to a variable. When we compile here, we're gonna have the default value. It's gonna be for duration. So that way we can see the line trace appear in the world. For object types, we're going to add a new array here and then let it world static. So it's going to detect world static actors, or I guess it's static meshes. For example, this wall right here, everything that is inside here. So it's going to be detecting that. Now here, we're going to choose a line trace color to be white. It can be whatever you want. And this is yellow. And now we need to do the calculation for us to place the line trace forward. So remember, when the character is just pointing towards this little wall right here, we're gonna spawn a line trace that goes on the bottom here and goes forward like that. We need to spawn a line trace on the front of the character. We're going to need the get actor forward vector. And also we're going to need to get the actor location. Out of this return value, we're going to subtract and then place that to start. And then we're going to do minus 20, just type 20 in the z-axis. So it's going to place the line trace in the bottom of the character. Let's add on here in the get character forward vector, we're going to multiply this and we're going to convert this to a float, and we're going to type 76, and this is going to be the length of the line trace. How forward, how much the distance of going forward is going to be. Let's just connect that to the plus and then to the end. We're gonna compile save and then we're gonna test it out. As you can see, it spawned the line trace, and as you can see, it has the right height for it to be able to detect this small wall right here. The final thing we're gonna do in here, we're going to collapse all these nodes. So we can just do like something like this, just select everything here. You can select even moving on ground if you want. I'm going to right click, collapse to nodes. So that way you can have a better organized code if you want. We're gonna do calculation calculation for forward line trace or whatever. You can even choose the instance color if you want to, like this. I'm going to choose blue like that. And now for the next step, after we have just detected the wall, we need to grab the information of the wall. Where is it located and how much, what is the height of it. So we just need to grab the information of this little wall right here. Out of line trace, we're going to get a branch, and here the return value is going to be on the branch. Out of hit, we're going to break the hit results. So now here on the break hit results, we have a ton of variables right here. As you can see, we have a lot of information. As soon as the character hits the wall, it's going to grab all the information that this wall has into one of these nodes. What we need is just normal. We're going to right click on normal and promote to variable, and we're going to call this wall normal. And here on wall location, we're going to promote to variable location as well. So it's going to be wall location. So that's everything you gotta do in here on the step 2. Basically what it does is just check the results if we hit something, which is the wall we want. Now we're gonna go for the step 3, which is to check the wall height. So basically we're going to place a secondary line trace just to check the wall height. All right. So the first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna create a new function. This function is going to be named calculate wall height. You don't necessarily need to create a function for that, but as we want to have more organized code, maybe we're gonna need it for something else. It's good to have functions. You can have a more clear code so you can modify it later if you want, if you need to. So now we're gonna go for the step 3, calculate wall height. Out of calculate wall height, we're going to get the same line trace for objects, so it can detect wall and stuff. The line trace color is going to be green. We're going to grab the object types. That's why I said to you that we're going to use it a lot. So it's good to promote your variable. And the debug type is the same. Again, if you want to disable the line trace, you're going to just click on here or on here and go to the default value and choose done. So now here we're going to do the calculation for calculating the wall height. So we're going to grab the wall normal and the wall location as well. Out of the wall normal, we're going to make rotation from X. And out of that, we're going to get the forward vector. We're going to multiply that, convert it to a float. We're going to add. We're going to pin the wall location to here. We're going to add one more time. And then we're going to subtract. I'm just going to move this a little bit to the side, to the bottom. All right, that looks fine. And out of here, we're going to connect to start, and this is going to be end. So this is going to be how further up it will be until it reaches the ground. So the more value you add here, the more upwards is going to go for it to check the ground. That's everything you gotta do in here. We're going to select everything and collapse to nodes. This is going to be calculate wall height node. Double click on that. And then here on inputs, we're going to convert this to a pin, to a float. And we're going to add to inputs. This is going to be called height, just height. Compile, go back to the calculate wall height. And this is going to be minus 10. Compile, save. And I'll hit, going to break hit result. We're going to promote the location, promote it to a variable. And let's write wall height. Out of this, we're going to get the return node. That's the function that you're going to need. Now let's go back to the event graph. Let's drag and drop the function. We're going to connect that to that. We're going to add a small delay so we can check for the results. We're going to add a branch. And then we're going to create a new variable called wall is tall. So first, to be able to calculate the wall height, we're going to create a new variable called wall height 2. I guess it's 2. Wall height 2, and then we're going to create it to a float. We're going to convert it to a float. We're going to drag and drop this, set it to variable. We're going to get the wall height and the wall location. We're going to subtract. We're going to break the vector. And here on the Z, we're going to connect to wall height. So that's the way you're going to know the wall height. So back here on the bridge, drag and drop the wall height, and if the wall height is less than 70, we're going to consider that this wall is. So if the value is true, if this value of 70 is less than 70, then the branch is going to be true, and we're going to set the wall is tall to false, because the wall is not going to be tall. For checking that, we're going to create just a print string, and we're going to get this wall height here. We're just going to see what value we get depending on what wall we hit. So for example, this wall right here is the smallest one. We're going to approach this, and the value, as you can see on the top left corner, it's 5. This one is 31. This one is what is this one? Okay, maybe this value is more than 71. We're going to connect this to that to see. This is 31 and this is 70. So as you can see, it's better for us to place 71 for that. Yeah. So if the value is less than 71, it can vault. And in order for us to be able to climb up these different walls right here, they are bigger, so we can vault them, but we don't have the right animation for that. Maybe I can post on Patreon so you can have the right animation for vaulting these walls right here. So just let's resume everything that we did here. We're gonna choose a key that we want so we can start the vault. It's gonna check if the character is moving on ground before we can start the line trace. If the character is moving on ground, if the player pressed the letter R, it's going to we're going to place a line trace for objects that is going to search for objects, and the calculation for the for line trace, which is going to place the line trace in the bottom of the character. We're gonna break the results so we can get the results of that wall. If it really the line trace really hits the wall, we're going to get the results of that wall. And after we get the results of the wall, we're going to check for the wall height. So for that, we need the function of calculate wall height, which we have another calculation for placing the line trace, as I explained before. So it's going to get the information of the wall height again. After that, we're going to add a small delay node, so that way you can check the previous calculation of the wall height. On this branch here, we're going to check how high is the wall. So it's going to set if the wall is tall or if it's not, and that's basically it. Now we're going to check the wall thickness. I want to do one thing. We're going to create another function. So scroll down here to functions and create a new function. Practically the same name as wall height, but this is going to be wall thickness. We're going to go back to wall height. We're going to copy this node right here, and this probably all these nodes right here. We're going to go back to wall thickness, and we're going to paste this, and this is going to be check wall thickness. and this is going to be -50. We're going to connect the node. The only thing that we're going to change here is the calculate wall. It's the height. Okay. This is thickness. The reason why we choose the value -50 instead of -10, it's because we're gonna want to place the line trace a little bit further than the last one, so we can check for the wall thickness. From the line trace for objects, grab this and say return node, so that way we can finish our execution. But before that, we're going to grab the return node and also the location. So you can collapse this break result, and that's done. Our function to check the wall thickness is done. Remember that you have to set the thickness to -50. So you can place the line trace a little forward from the last line trace, which is to check the wall height. Let's go back to the event graph. Now for the step 4, we're going to just drag and drop the wall thickness function, and we're going to place that in there. Regardless if the wall is tall or not, we're going to execute the calculation of the wall thickness. We need to do some more things in here on the step 4. We're going to get a branch. We're going to place the return value to the condition, and we're going to create a new variable called wall is thick. It's going to be a Boolean value, and we're going to set that. We're going to set the first one to true and the other one to false. And if the wall is not thick, we can vault. So we're going to go to the step 5, which is to vault. Just remember what we did here. We did just the calculation of everything we need to do to identify the wall on the step 1. Step 2 checked the results. For the step 3, we checked the wall height, the wall thickness. And now we're going to do the last step 5, which is the vault setup. This vault setup might be more complicated than you think. If the wall is not thick, we can vault, sorry. So that way we can play a montage. Before selecting the montage to play, we're gonna go back to the third-person map, and on the folder that you have your animations in, you can select. We're gonna create a new animation montage, and I have this animation montage right here, already done. As you can see, I have some notifies here. I'm going to be teaching you how you can place them. So here I'm going to select my montage and drag off the mesh. I'm going to place on the skeletal mesh component, compile, save. So after you have your enabled root motion option enabled, we're gonna test this out. So we're gonna press R. Something's not working right. Let me see why. Just a quick fix here. We don't actually need this wall height 3, so we can delete that. And we can also delete everything here. So I was just doing some tests, and I found out that we don't need this wall height 3, so we can delete the variable as well. Let's hit compile, save. And if I press play here, as you can see when I press R, so basically why this happens is because when I play a animation montage, the character needs to be in the air. And for us to be able to move in the air, we need to set the character mode to flying. And also we need to set this collision to be off, because as we are flying, we're not going to be able to like jump, move the capsule up like this. It's not going to be smooth and not appropriate. So this capsule right here is going to move forward like this. So we just need to turn the collision off and set the character mode to flying. So that way the character can play the animation montage correctly. So let's do that right now. So for that, we can create a new function. We're going to call this disable input. We're going to grab the character movement and the capsule component. We're going to set movement mode to flying, as I said earlier. And the capsule component, we're going to disable the collision. So let's set the collision enabled to the new type, which is going to be no collision. We're going to plug that in. So that's it. So let's just compile, save. So I'm just basically going to copy everything that is in here. So I'm going to set the new movement mode to falling and the set collision enabled to collision enabled. I'm going to Control X to cut, and I'm going to create a new function called enable input. I'm going to paste that in. There we go. Finally, we can place this disable input that is going to set the character mode to flying, and we're going to disable the capsule collision. So now let's see what we have for now. When you press the R, the character, wait. As you can see, it worked, but I still have my character flying. I'm still flying because I set my character to be flying on this function right here. On this function, on the other function to enable, I have my character to be falling. So I can basically go. So what I can basically do, I can click here on montage to play. I'm going to browse to that asset, and I'm going to notify. If you already have a notify, you can just add a new notify track, like so. And here on you can right click, add a notify state. On the search bar, you're going to type montage notify window, and then you can do practically the same thing as I did here. Just place on the first one. Don't place like too much here, because it's not going to execute. Place more or less right here, or if it doesn't work, just place it here. And the other one, we're gonna place this as soon, you're gonna place in here as soon when the character finishes vaulting. So I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to let my notify window here. I'm going to save. So going back to the play montage, we have different events here. We have notify begin and notify end. Begin is when the animation plays. Begin, the event begin is called when we are right here on the animation. So the event begin is going to be called right here. And on the end, it's going to be this. It's going to be on this time where the character is finishing vaulting. So let's just plug that in, this event on notify end to enable input, so that we can enable input and our character can walk without flying, without any glitches again. So I'm gonna press R. So as you can see, my character is not flying anymore. So that solved my issue. If you have any doubts, you can print a string and just say notify end, and then just play that just to, you know, verify if it's working right. And as you can see on the top left corner, you get the notify end as soon as the character finishes vaulting. All right. I'm going to delete print string. So the next issue we have is because when I press play, I'm going to do this slow motion because it's hard to see. Maybe it's not. Let me see. Let me test on a bigger wall like this one. Yeah, it's working fine. Now on this wall right here. And that's when you get the issue, right? That's when you start having bugs. As you can see, this wall is bigger. Right. And when I press R, my character hand glitches through the wall. So if you want to fix this issue of the character glitching through the wall, we can do some calculations to calculate the distance, how high the character needs to be for it to perfectly place his hand and not glitch through the wall. For that, we need a jump helper. So let's create a variable called jump helper. And let's create a new function called jump helper function. We're gonna get a branch. Let's drag and drop jump helper here. By the way, this function is going to be on the event tick. Now we're going to set the actual location. We're gonna get the character location. We're gonna split it. Add a plus. We're gonna create a new variable called vault or mental. So that way we can choose how high the character needs the impulse for it to perfectly place his hand at the top of the wall and not glitch through it. Now we're going to need to subtract this value, and we're going to get the wall height vector. We're going to split the structure pen. The wall height Z is going to be connected here. And we're going to get the F interpolation node too. We're going to get the world data seconds. Out of the return value, we're going to connect to set actor location. But before, we're going to split the structure, connect the values. Nice and easy. Return value is going to be on the new location Z. That's everything we're going to do on the function. On the event tick, we're going to get a sequence. Drag and drop the jump helper function to there. So as soon as the jump helper is activated, this Boolean variable is activated, it's going to pass this branch, and it's going to smoothly helps the character to move up when he's climbing. And here, vault or mantle, this value is going to be depending if you want to vault or mantle. I'm going to be explaining you later how you can make the use of this setting. And let's go back to the event graph. I think that's everything I gotta do on the event tick. So now let's go back to the step 5, the vault setup. So now for us to be able to activate this jump helper, we're going to get a sequence. On the first, we're going to get the delay. We're going to create a new variable called disable jump helper. This is going to be a Boolean value. We're going to set this to false. And here we're going to get a branch. We're going to drag and drop the disable jump helper. And here on false, we're going to get the jump helper and pin it to false. We're going to get a delay with the duration of 0.25. And now we're going to set the jump helper to off, to false. We're going to collapse all this to a node. And we're going to call this jump helper node. We're going to connect on notify begin. Just double click on this and make sure it's connected. File save. And drag and drop your vault or mantle. We're gonna set this value. We're gonna connect that before the disable input. We're gonna set this value to 100. That means we're going to vault. So here, let's go see on slow motion. When I press R, let's see if the character is going to glitch the hand on the wall, on the top of the wall. As you can see, it didn't glitch. That kind of teleportation is because if you go back to the montage, we're going to fully vault the wall. So we're going to just move this a little bit like that. Let's try again. Slow motion now. Yeah, still. We're going to move it a little bit there. So let's just recap what we just did. We find a key to start vaulting. We check if the character is moving around or not. If it is moving around, we can vault. The first line trace is to detect if there is any wall in front of us or not. It's going to calculate to place the location of the forward line trace. This is the calculation for placing where the forward line trace is going to be. Here is going to grab the results if it hits the wall. So if it hits the wall, it's going to set the results to it's going to promote this to a variable. So it's going to set these values of location normal. And so it's going to save the values there. So for the step 3, we're going to check the wall height. We're going to do also some calculations to place, to decide where the line trace for checking the wall height is going to be. We set a small delay for us to, before we check everything. And if the wall, here we consider if the wall, here we check how high is the wall, if the wall is tall or not. Here we check the wall thickness. So if the line trace hits the other side, like we have right here. If the third actually line trace, the green line trace, hits the block, that means that the wall is thick. In my case, it doesn't hit. As you can see, the third line trace doesn't hit. So that means that the wall is thin, it's not thick. Also, we set the vault for the step 5, we have the vault set up. So if the wall is thin, then we can prepare for vaulting. And this value here is 100. If I set it to, like, I don't know, 200, this is the value that we're going to use for mantling. And if I try to vault, the character is not going to be placed correctly. If I type like 0, the character is going to be too much high. So 100 is the perfect value that you can use for all types of walls, even the last one. Like this, the character is going to place perfectly. Wait, let me do it slow motion so that you can see that the character is perfectly going to place his hand on the top of the wall regardless of its size. So 100 is a good value for vaulting. We're going to disable input so that the character can execute the play montage perfectly fine, and set collision enabled to off. So we're going to disable the capsule collision so that we can pass through walls with the capsule collision. so that way we can execute the default animation correctly. So the character, so the capsule collision is not going to block us from vaulting the wall. Okay, well, and the jump helper node helps us to basically get the necessary height that we need, and it sets the character height smoothly depending on how much high he needs to be to execute the vault animation completely and place his hand at the top of the wall perfectly fine. On the notify end, we're going to stop vaulting, and we're going to set the capsule collision back to have collision, and we're going to set the character to be falling, so that way it's going to finish our setup. And here on the event tick, resetting this variable, we have this wall height 2 variable that we just created, and the jump helper function, which is this one right here. It only executes when you call it. So only when it's true, it's going to execute the set actual location and blah blah blah. It's going to do its saying, so it's perfectly fine. So I guess that's it for the tutorial. I hope you enjoyed, and I see you in the next one. Bye bye. I want to say a big thanks to everyone who has subscribed to my channel, and reaching 1K subscribers is a significant achievement for me. Also, please pay attention to the community tab where I'll be posting new pools, so that you can vote for the next tutorial that you'd like to see. Also, feel free to comment below on which locomotion tutorial I should create next, so that I can add it to the next pool. Now I have a Patreon page with different perks, where you get project files from my tutorials, private community, and much more. And by joining my Patreon, you'll be supporting me and creating more tutorials and content like this in the future. So don't hesitate to check out my Patreon perks to boost your projects today and start taking advantage of all the perks. I'd also like to give you a big thank to my new Patreon members who have helped me to make these tutorials possible. Sage Bridges, Michael Hennick, and Jay. Thank you so much guys for supporting me on Patreon, and bye bye.